and esteemed panelists. Forgive me for my voice, it's not 100%, but I hope we will make it to the end. It's my great pleasure to welcome you again to this 5th regular meeting of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development. We are nearing the end of semester, and to date I believe that we have engaged in a very substantive dialogue on our selected theme of capacity building to improve trade in the Americas as a pillar of inclusive and sustainable development, with the goal of advancing a regional roadmap for capacity building to improve trade. Today's session provides us with the opportunity to continue to advance our shared priority of building more resilient and competitive economies. I am advised by the Secretary that we have the required quorum and we may proceed with the order of business. So I now submit for the consideration of this Council the draft order of business, which is found in document CD/OD 164/25 Ref 2. And let me just go through the items for today so that we all know what we try to do. We will first have a dialogue among member states on fintech and e-commerce readiness. And we have 3 panelists, I will come to that later, and then the dialogue with member states. Item 3 on the agenda is the CD sectoral ministerial process cycle, and we'll get a report about sustainable development, 7th regular meeting. And then item 4, report of the 22nd Americas Competitiveness Exchange, which was in Cordoba, Argentina. And we will have a presentation by Mr. Guillermo Constancio Acosta, Minister of Economy and Public Management of the province of Cordoba. And then finally, other business. So that's the order of business for today. And if there are no objections or comments, then it is approved. Thank you. So we now turn to item 2 on our agenda, which is our policy dialogue on fintech and e-commerce readiness. The Secretariat has shared the concept notes CD/INF 686/25, which will form the basis for our discussions today. Over the past months, member states have repeatedly emphasized that digital transformation is no longer an optional pathway. It is now a foundational pillar of competitiveness, productivity, and financial inclusion. Across our hemisphere, digital financial services and e-commerce are reshaping how people trade, how MSMEs access markets, and how governments deliver services. Fintech solutions are lowering entry barriers for entrepreneurs. Digital payments are expanding participation in formal commerce, and cross-border e-commerce is connecting even the smallest firms to global value chain. Yet, as reflected in the concept note, significant gaps persist, including uneven connectivity, varying regulatory approaches, cybersecurity risks, and persistent informality. These disparities limit our collective ability to leverage digital tools as engines of equitable growth. Today's dialogue invites us to reflect on how we can strengthen the institutional, regulatory, and technological readiness needed to unlock the full potential of digital trade. Among the many issues identified by member states are the following: developing regulatory frameworks that encourage innovation while providing legal certainty, expanding access to interoperable digital payment systems, promoting cybersecurity, data protection, and trust in digital transactions, building institutional capacity and digital governance across public agencies, supporting MSME integration into cross-border e-commerce, and strengthening public-private collaboration to accelerate adoption. To enrich this discussion, we are joined by three distinguished panelists whose expertise spans innovation, competitiveness, digital finance, and public policy. Our first panelist, who will join us virtually, is Mr. Enrique Topolansky, Executive Director of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Universidad OAS, Uruguay. Mr. Topolansky brings more than 25 years of experience building innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystems across Uruguay and the region. His leadership at the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, together with his work in academia, venture development, and public-private collaboration, offers a unique perspective on how digital tools, innovation environments, and institutional capabilities can accelerate MSME competitiveness and drive inclusive participation in the digital economy. As I give the floor, I kindly remind all three panelists that they will each have 7 minutes for their interventions. So, Mr. Topolansky, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here to take part in this meeting. I'm going to share my screen.
Look how high I am.
I think you should be seeing the presentation now. I would like to tell you today about the challenges faced by MSMEs in a world that's transforming digitally. And I would like to start this presentation with this beautiful image of the planet Earth, in which 8 billion of people live, and that is becoming ever more digital day by day. I would like to show you how these 8 billion people, 70% of which live in urban centers, making use of some form of digital technology through mobile connections, offering multiple connections to social media and the internet. But what I would like to underscore here, and what I'm trying to say by those 70% that make use of cellular communication, only 10% of those people who use cell phones actually use the full capabilities that they offer. People may be connected, but they don't have the wherewithal, the knowledge to actually avail themselves fully. And this is really what I would like to talk about. This new digital reality that we face amid global changes in consumption, how we work, how we interrelate across the planet. Consumption changes give rise to great uncertainty, because before a MSME would compete with people close by, no further than 3 or 4 blocks away, a distance one could easily walk. And now what we have is a world in which competition comes from beyond our borders. We might, as we ply our trade, be competing with someone from China, or we might be purchasing via platforms such as Amazon or any of the platforms that are available. MSMEs are locked out of that reality, and sometimes they don't even understand what's happening or why they're locked out. Because competition is no longer local, it's worldwide. And now we face new paradigms. And this is what we are summing up with the term digital disruption. People are locked out, excluded. And this is the predicament that people face. And it's very important to assist MSMEs to understand this new world, to adapt, and for them to better conduct their business and create value within their context. Now, the barriers that small businesses face is first the internal lack of knowledge to undertake this transformation, and the fact that there is a lack of infrastructure that would enable them to use different platforms for payment, to connect to this global network. So there's this lack of knowledge, fear, and an inability to fully avail themselves of available tools. This is an environment that locks them out, keeping them from making use of those means of availing themselves of e-trade. Much can be done to put together an agenda to assist MSMEs, and countries should pledge to devise best practices for e-trade, and not just in theory, but to go beyond with mentorships. I think among those things which are important is that we showcase success stories that can be replicated locally. It does scant good to showcase success stories from across the globe. We need to focus locally for people to understand how they too can adopt such a model. From the public sphere, we have to understand that access to the internet, having access to online bank accounts, to make use of the novel types of electronic banks that are appearing, means of electronic payment. If having access to these means, small companies would quickly be able to be ushered in and no longer shut out. Otherwise, close to 90% of entrepreneurship, which is the main source of job creation, is in the very short term going to be shut out, remain shut out. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Mr. Topolansky, for your insightful remarks. It's clear that we need concrete measures to make MSMEs participate more in e-trade and show them very concrete examples. Thank you, and we'll come back to you later with some questions. Our second panelist joining us here in person this morning is Ms. Hua Wang, Executive Director of the Global Innovation Forum at the National Foreign Trade Council Foundation. As GIFT's Executive Director, Ms. Wang engages in an international network of small minority and women-led businesses, nonprofit leaders, and government officials to improve the trade and digital policy landscapes. She oversees the development and execution of GIFT's strategy to facilitate more inclusive access to the global marketplace. This experience is particularly relevant as our region navigates the rapid digitalization of commerce. Before joining the GIFT, Ms. Wang was herself a digital entrepreneur, a private equity attorney, and an investment banker. Her on-the-ground experience undergirds her support to the SMEs she leads and will also help us clarify how regulatory alignment, trust, and interoperability underpin modern trade ecosystems. Ms. Wang, you have the floor.
Good morning. It is such an honor to be here at Citi today as we imagine what a more inclusive, innovative, and digitally empowered Americas could be. Let me begin with a simple truth. Innovation is not about technology. It's about access. It's about widening the circle of who gets to participate in opportunity. Across our hemisphere, that circle is expanding. And digital payments, fintech, and e-commerce are some of the most powerful tools driving that transformation. A moment of transformation in our hemisphere. Across this hemisphere, something extraordinary is happening. Governments, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders are shaping a digital economy that is smarter, faster, and more globally connected than anything we've ever seen before. Every digital wallet, every mobile point-of-sale device, every cross-border marketplace is a doorway, often the first doorway that connects people to the modern trading ecosystem. We have seen incredible breakthroughs in Brazil, where Pix, an online instant payment system designed by Brazil's central bank, has handled 30 billion USD in 2 years in e-commerce spending. I had the privilege as an entrepreneur to participate in Startup Chile and lived in Santiago for a year. Startup Chile is backed by the government and global companies such as Google, Amazon, and Walmart. It provides a startup visa, office space, soft landing support, and a global community of amazing founders. He also runs a pre-accelerator program for women entrepreneurs designed to equip earlier stage SMEs with the skills, networks, and confidence needed to enter the main accelerator that does come with capital. And in the Caribbean, governments are not just adopting digital tools, they're helping to write the global playbook. I was at the WTO Public Forum a few months ago, and I witnessed the work that Ambassador Richard Brown from Jamaica is leading in facilitating the e-commerce work program and renewing the moratorium. As he and other Caribbean countries are pushing for global rules that allow digital trade to expand without unnecessary barriers. Caribbean nations were among one of the first adopters of digital tools and technologies, and this has helped open their economies, strengthen their tourism sectors, and connected MSMEs to global marketplaces long before it became a global trend. Small economies are signaling something important. You don't need to be big to influence the future. You just need to be strategic and coordinated. Digital payments. Digital payments have become significant drivers for women-led MSMEs, particularly as they enter the realm of global trade. These tools help bridge long-standing barriers that have traditionally limited the growth and international reach of women-owned businesses, providing access to global markets and supporting innovation. By offering secure, efficient, and widely accepted payment solutions, digital payments empower women entrepreneurs to expand their operations internationally, facilitating transactions with customers across borders and enhancing their competitiveness in the global marketplace. Last year, I traveled to Peru for APEC and did some work with women-led SMEs there. I have two examples. One is Lima Lennon, which was born during the pandemic on Instagram. Using Visa-powered link payments, Shopify infrastructure, and digital customer engagement tools, Lima Lennon scaled into a cross-border brand serving customers across Latin America. I also met with the woman pictured here, Rachel. She is the founder of Eco Inca, which sells quinoa and other goods from local farmers. And she leverages digital technologies and e-commerce to enhance transparency and expand its reach. She says, digital payments allow us to reach remote communities quickly and securely, ensuring that women farmers have direct access to their income. This support impacts their businesses and their families, creating a ripple effect of empowerment. When women have income, families and communities thrive. Women tend to reinvest in education, their children, nutrition, and stability. Digital payments don't just improve business outcomes, they reshape family outcomes. At the Global Innovation Forum, we work with entrepreneurs around the world. Here are three patterns that we hear again and again about barriers to trade. First, fragmentation slows innovation. One fintech startup told us they had to train 4 different versions of the model to comply with 4 countries' different rules on financial data. That means 4 different audit processes, 4 compliance checks, 4 data sets. For an MSME, that's not just time-consuming, it's existential. Second, regulation is often a black box. Many MSMEs tell us, it's not that we don't want to comply, it's that we don't know how. The language is unclear, the timeline's unclear, and the penalties uncertain. When the rules aren't transparent or predictable, MSMEs pull back. They don't invest, they don't expand. The result? We stifle the very innovation we are trying to support. Third, trust is the true trade enabler. In this space, trust is everything. Trust in the data, trust in the algorithm, trust in the policy environment. When firms trust that governments will apply rules fairly, consistently, and transparently, they're more likely to scale across borders. When that trust breaks down, markets fragment and progress stalls. What can we do as member states? First, we recommend you prioritize interoperability. Just like we did with the internet or with global shipping standards, we need interoperable frameworks. Member states don't need identical regulations, but we do need compatible ones. Let's create bridges, not silos. Second, co-create with MSMEs. Most policies today are written about small businesses, not with them. Let's change that. Invite them to the table. Build regulatory sandboxes that let MSMEs test and adapt before enforcing rules. Let's create a climate of experimentation, not fear. 3, strengthen capacity building. MSMEs don't need more red tape. They need resources, how-to guides, open source compliance tools, access to local digital and legal support, public-private sandboxes, e-commerce onboarding programs, interoperable cross-border platforms, and accessible training are necessary, especially for women, youth, and informal MSMEs. 4th, build trust. Security unlocks customer trust, and trust unlocks cross-border e-commerce. That means shared cybersecurity standards, strong fraud prevention tools, and regional cooperation on data governance. Lastly, invest in real-time digital payments. In our Global Innovation Forum of over 1,000 MSMEs around the world, 81% of them want instant payouts. This is not just a feature, it's a cash flow survival. In closing, we now have the opportunity and the responsibility to build a digital economy that is more inclusive and globally connected. A hemisphere where public-private partnerships are standard, where innovation sandboxes accelerate breakthroughs, and where regulatory clarity fuels rather than slows the next generation of technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wang. Innovation is not about technology, but about access. And I think you made some very good remarks. What can OAS member states do? We can do something, and that's why we are here. So let's start with prioritization of interoperability, and then the other things will also follow. But it's for us as member states of the OAS to really get our act together and to promote e-trade. Thank you very much. Our third panelist also joining us, not virtually, he is right here, you know, Mr. Felipe Rincon. That was quick. Vice President for Public Policy for Latin America and the Caribbean at MasterCard. Mr. Rincon brings extensive experience in financial regulation, digital payments, fintech ecosystems, and policy innovation across the region's financial and capital markets. His work across the public and private sectors, ranging from regulatory bodies and stock exchange governments to industry-leading digital payment platforms, provides him with a uniquely comprehensive perspective on the institutional transformations required to enable secure, interoperable, and inclusive digital financial services. His expertise is especially relevant as member states consider how to strengthen cross-border payments, how to strengthen digital wallets, embedded finance, promote cybersecurity, and data protection frameworks, all of which are critical enablers of e-commerce and MSME participation in formal trade. Mr. Rincon, you have the floor.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and sharing some of these thoughts and ideas. Thank you, Barbara, Emily, for the preparation. So I have 3 messages here, basically, in these 7 minutes. Sorry that the font is a little bit small in this slide, but the message of this slide is, and following the remarks of my co-panelists, it's truly amazing what has been happening in Latin America in the past 10 to 15 years, right? There are recent reports saying that, if you look at 2011, right, 3 individuals out of 100 used to make or receive digital payments. Fast forward 10 years to 2021, the number is around 40. When you go and look at, how many people used to receive digital payments and the percentage of transactions in the economy that took place using cash versus electronic, we have been moving from levels of 25, 30% to above 70%, 75% in many countries. Access, people having access to accounts and usage of accounts. It's transformational. You go to any capital city, main city, or tourist destination, and you can pay through cards or many other, electronic payment methods. And this has to do with, here what I have is a list of things that have been done by regulators. It's a list of 7 things. I don't want to go through them. But the message here is, and there are many lists of ways of describing this, but regulators in Latin America have been leading, have been innovative in enabling, new realities, right? From, deposit-taking institutions that are, that have reduced burdens because they are not in the business of taking money and lending money, but rather taking money, they're deposit-taking institutions, but enabling, right, digital payments, and many others that I put in this slide. But not all countries have all these elements in place. We don't have time to go through this, but we have many countries that have already that check all these boxes, but some mid-size and smaller markets don't still have. So the agenda is out there, and in follow-up conversations we can continue talking about this. So the second message is, this is basically what we call in payments the payment rails. So you know how today we can communicate using different methods, like SMS messages, or I don't like to use names of companies, but WhatsApp, Apple, right, Zoom, right. There's so many ways in which we can interconnect. Same happens in payments, right. You can transact today through cards, right, account to account, closed circuits. Central bank, payment systems. We mentioned PIX earlier. There are so many others. Interoperability models, open finance, open banking, alternative, stable coins. The Caribbean has been leading on this. So today, and then what I'm showing in the sides is the user interfaces, right? It's physical cards and POSs, but also QR codes, also aliases, right? So you can use as an alias to send or receive a payment your electronic email, or your government issued ID, or whatever name you want to use. And then we have multiple providers of accounts. So this is amazing, and this is great, and we are empowering people on how to pay and how to be paid. And I think that whenever, society at large, whenever we reach, right, and we make a breakthrough like the one that we have been, achieving in Latin America to various degrees, then there's a new challenge. And the new challenge is that, we are in a situation where we have included, millions of individuals, millions of merchants, digitally and financially. Digitally in the sense of, we have now the penetration of smartphones and the penetration of broadband internet, and, with a population that is mostly youth and tech savvy, people use and they are digitally included and digitally enabled. They are included financially in the sense that they have an account and they can pay, and we have new rails that they can use, but and this is the challenge, and it's an interesting challenge. We see this challenge from an optimistic point of view. We have an issue of formalization, right? People, we still, the levels of formalization are still too low. And this means that people are into business without creating a proper business, without, incorporating a proper business and doing all the paperwork, which is a barrier. We have issues with employment law. So there's a lot of informality from an employment point of view. So, and then, small companies are having a very hard time becoming a taxpayer. That pathway to become a taxpayer is very challenging. And we are in this situation where people are included. We are getting the data. So, banks and tax administration, they're seeing the data, but people are not, or many merchants are not in compliance. They're not, right, paying their taxes, or that is a challenge, and I think that is a challenge to that deserves attention for the next year. And my next slide just wanted to, show one idea of how to go through this challenge. Basically, what I show here is 3 elements, right? The characterization of merchants is important, right? It's very different, a big corporation that behaves by the book, a formal company that is relatively large, or but it's still opportunistic. There's the number 3, right? Independent professional, is a very different situation. Emerging individuals, right? It's very different an emerging individual or a small merchant that is selling products from another one that is selling a service. Today, right, with you know, the virtual mode that we can all have access, we can have a lot of teachers, health, right? You can have a subscription to a system where you can have your doctor, you know, in a virtual mode. And then number 5 is making a living. Then we have the stairway to formality, which is we have a lot of tax regime, but the experiences vary wildly, right? Exemptions, monotributo, simplified regime, and standard regimes. This is something that we need to deep dive to make sure that we have a good calibration, because we have incentives and enforcement, meaning, you know, the carrots and sticks. And I think we need to get this together, because this year, and let me close with this, you know, what I'm sharing with you here is not theoretical. This year, we have very difficult situation, political situation, and technical situation, and I can expand in this, in Brazil, in Colombia, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, in Costa Rica, couple of months ago, because of this tension, because of, you know, the tax administration want to have more visibility, and the new merchants, millions of individuals that are using this, you know, it's not reconciled. This happened this year. It's very vivid, it's very real, and I think we cannot, the only thing that we cannot do is push again people to informality, to cash. What we need is to come up with smart policies so that we can, you know, create that stairway to formality that is smart and that can help us, you know, continue in this challenge of digitization. 1 minute more, sorry about that, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rincon, for your clear and insightful contribution. It's important indeed that you mentioned that regulators have been important to enable digital payments. And we need those people, and we need to overcome the new challenge. So thank you for that. We now have heard from 3 complementary and mutual reinforcing perspectives, from the institutional and ecosystem foundations that enable digital transformation to the regulatory and governance conditions that foster competitiveness, to the private sector innovations that are reshaping how people and firms participate in the digital economy. Taken together, these 3 interventions offer a comprehensive and forward-looking framework for our discussion, while underscoring the breadth of opportunities that digital transformation presents for our hemisphere. We will now open the floor for an interactive dialogue between member states and our panelists. This exchange is an essential part of the Council's work, allowing us to connect regional priorities with national experiences, good practices, and the concrete needs identified across our diverse economies. So the floor is open. You can ask questions to the panelists or have a discussion with them.
You can start with your questions.
Barbados, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for being late this morning. While I missed the initial discussions for the Caribbean itself and for Barbados, we see this area having 5 critical challenges: de-risking and difficulty accessing global payment networks, fragmented regional regulatory environment, a small market size and lack of financing. Skill for us is the problem. Logistics and infrastructure limitations, and cybersecurity and digital literacy gaps. Given those, what are your recommendations for the region in the Caribbean which faces these peculiar challenges?
Thank you for that question. Maybe Ms. Wang wants to start with answering.
Sure, yes. So I work with MSMEs a lot of times in smaller countries as well. And for them, it's even more essential to have access to digital technologies and tools, and also to trade, engage with other partners, other countries. And also, of course, cybersecurity, everything needs to be secure. So I would say my recommendation is find ways to collaborate and partner with other member states so you could kind of exchange dialogue, share best practices, and also engage the MSMEs on what kind of, what are their priorities, what do they want from policy, how you can facilitate their interaction with the global marketplace.
Okay, Mr. Rincon, you want to add to that?
Yes, I think we have in the Caribbean, from our point of view, very interesting initiatives, central bank digital currencies to enable new flows, to facilitate transactions and interoperability. And I think jurisdictions in the Caribbean have the possibility, because of their size, because being recipient of tourism, to truly leapfrog, right, the region, considering the models of reference. I think in Latin America we have several models of reference, and the first slide that I presented, I think it's a good reference of what is there still a gap? That will be my question mark in each of these 7 elements, and how to have an agenda and a schedule to close that gap, and then couple that with the strength that some of the countries in the Caribbean have already put in place with own initiatives, like precisely in Barbados. So yeah, I would say that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We go to Brazil.
Thank you very much, Chair. Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to begin, of course, by expressing my thanks to the panelists. Each of the statements has been stellar. Let me ask a question, if I may, on a point that has been raised regularly, which is the opportunities that crop up and that one must identify, economic opportunities, inter alia. But more recently, I speak for Brazil, I'm pretty much sure that this happens elsewhere. There are instances of both of organizational criminality, that is, crimes, gangs that are involved in fintechs, money laundering, and other related crimes, and this very often through very elaborate schemes, as we know. In Brazil, at any rate, this is not something that is carbon copy day from day. It varies. And we see instances of fraud, of different conning, of particularly of elderly people who haven't quite got a grip on the system. And a very fast change in different payment methods and other means that confuse the individuals and, of course, benefit the people who are trying to reap illegal profits from this. So we wanted to raise this aspect and, quite frankly, ask the panelists here how they see that kind of risk. What technologies do you see that might perhaps better spread best practices from the central banks among the education that, I should say, among the people who need to be better educated as to how to protect themselves better? Thank you.
Okay, I don't know which panelist wants to start with answering this. Mr. Rincon?
Thank you. Yes, I think you are pointing out to some of the big challenges that we're having. Electronic payments, with the speed, with the ease today, also enable bad things to happen. right? Fraud, criminal activity. And fortunately, in some of, by the way, when I introduce myself, I'm Colombian, and in my home country, we have a situation of, a lot of criminal activity. And of course, when you enable that money moves so easy from point A to point B, there's a lot of opportunity for bad things to happen and for bad practices. And I think Brazil, you got all the huge benefit of one of the most innovative industries in the world, right? Because the fintech, community in Brazil, they have produced several unicorns or pentacorns, right? Probably 4 or 5, and then peaks on top of that, which is a very, very relevant development, but that had enabled all of these things. What we're seeing is that the Central Bank of Brazil recently have been, taking a lot of efforts to close the gaps. It's not easy. What is important is the industry needs to invest, and central banks that are leaning into this in technology, because what's happening is with artificial intelligence and with everything that is coming, the bad individuals, right, are going to take advantage of every opportunity. And the private industry and the government who is, managing these systems need to have the investment capability, need to have the technology, and we think that you are hitting the nail on the head with your comment. I think that that is also a challenge for the next 2 to 5 years. And I think that the combination is always regulation that catch up, leadership by the government, but also for the private sector to play their role, right? The investment and the challenges are so significant that we need the innovation, and Brazil has shown, right, that capability. So allow also the private sector to play that role and prevent and help, right, these platforms to be bulletproof and close all those gaps. So, yeah, I would say that, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you. Ms. Wong?
Sure, I will add, I think your point really emphasizes Felipe's point about the need for MSME formalization. If you're not formal, you're more vulnerable and you get attacked, you're more, vulnerable, more likely to be victims of fraud and organized crime. I also want to add, I think everyone should share the data. I feel like, governments, global companies such as Visa and MasterCard share the data together, know who's attacking who, what's happening. That data will be more powerful in helping you combat these organized crime. And then lastly, help MSMEs with cybersecurity and training. I know in Maryland, they have a program where the government shares the cost of cybersecurity training for MSMEs. And a lot of has shown some success.
Thank you. Colombia, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Chair. And indeed, very grateful thanks to all of the panelists for their contributions to our meeting this morning. Colombia would like to ask at this point, what might be the priorities in your view with regard to the position of authorities vis-a-vis the private market, the private sector, I should say? How can there be a further strengthening and a bringing in of segments of the population that are not mainstream, women, indigenous people, others who are not the number one constituents of the sector? How can we in the Americas, plural, Americas, north to south, do better and offer these communities a better chance to participate, the traditional communities that are generally cast aside or not considered? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Mr. Topolansky, are you still with us? And would you like to give some answers to this question?
tal. En realidad, quiero ampliar lo que preguntó
The interpreter regrets the speaker is choppy. I'll do the best I can, but I'm not hearing everything. This is the interpreter speaking. Now the speaker, we have taken note of the points made by the SMEs and the users and what can be done better to bring them into the mainstream. Now, the users are increasing, but we can't just say that the SMEs, with their limited capacities to reach out better, we can't think of something else to help. What I wanted to say clearly is that we need more regulation. Central banks, where are they? There has to be a better sense of responsibility and the liability that goes with it in terms of the financial issues involved when different instruments are launched, when different actions are launched vis-a-vis the users. There has to be a better thought as to how to regulate it and how to be of better assistance. Thank you.
Okay, the other ones, Mr. Rincon and Ms. Wang.
Sí. Dos comentarios a la pregunta.
Two comments as to Colombia's question. One, monitoring is there. The systems are launched. People start to use them, they think, but we need to know how these instruments are being used. Are, for instance, the elderly being targeted, or specific populations that are in one or another reason more vulnerable? You name it. You know what we're talking about. Who's out there to get their money is the question, and what can we do to do better to protect them and their money? And that, I would say, implicates the need to look to a very clear-sighted picture of what is out there. You know these express thieveries and different criminal organizations that are having a field day. Well, we need to have a better grip on what's out there and what we can do to fight it. How much of this is going on? In what sectors? What are the most vulnerable areas of society? That's number one. Second, big time, financial education. People have to know better how these mechanisms work and what protection they have and should have if they're going to be involved in this in any way. Now, the good thing about a digital wallet, I should say, is I can use my mobile, I've just raised it, and I can mobilize my resources very quickly. However, I get it. If you have sharp people out there that know how to get around the safeguards, I might be fleeced. Every technology, dear friends, has its pluses and its minuses. And quite frankly, the pluses and the minuses are not that different. But one has to have, of course, one's own means of protection, and we all have our role to play. But A, figure out what's going on. Two, how you can do better as governments to help people be more empowered. That's the big name of the game here. They've got to know what they can do to protect themselves, and they need help to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wang?
Yes. So your question about how to involve the private sector, I think in my experience, the private sector really wants to be engaged with government. And a lot of times they have the resources, technology, networks that they could really add value and share best practices, what they learned. In regards to women and indigenous people, I feel a lot of the gender-specific training focused on these underserved populations has been very valuable. For example, I participated in a 2-day workshop where they brought in 200 women entrepreneurs for a weekend. And for me, that was powerful. The training was super specific, from things about how women tend to ask for less capital than men. They tend to be some biases in how investors ask them questions. For women, they tend to ask, well, this is so risky. What happens if you fail? And then studies have shown when they meet with male entrepreneurs, they tend to ask, how big can this go? Can this be the next billion-dollar company? So even little biases can kind of change, your confidence and how you present yourself. So I recommend working with the private sector and government to create this, kind of safe space, unique training opportunities for these underserved entrepreneurs.
Thank you. At this point, I want to thank our panelists for contributing a lot of their expertise, and I want to thank everyone for the discussion. The panelists may be excused from the meeting should they need to depart, but of course are welcome to stay for dialogue among member states. On behalf of the Council, I wish to express our gratitude for the time you have dedicated to us today and for the thoughtful guidance offered to member states. Thank all of you. We will now open the floor to member states for an exchange of experiences, lessons learned, and opportunities for cooperation in this area. Delegations are invited to share national approaches to advancing digital payments and financial inclusion, to share about regulatory innovations that promote trust, interoperability, and consumer protection. They can share also initiatives to support MSME digitalization and participation in e-commerce, or tell us about opportunities to strengthen regional collaboration through the OAS in support of these efforts. I kindly ask each delegation to limit their interventions to 5 minutes. And I recognize Mexico, my dear ambassador.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I congratulate you for your country's for your celebrating anniversary, and we also celebrate the 50 years of diplomatic relations. Mexico recognizes the right to digital access as a constitutional precept which contributes to economic development, inclusion, and people's well-being, and is an essential element to drive trade, especially electronic trade, technological and financial services as well. It's within this context that digitalization drives economies, bringing together markets, strengthening consumers' trust, protecting rights, and reducing the informality, rather, bringing MEs into the formal market, allowing them access to lending. Mexico is a main technological center for Latin America and the Caribbean, playing a key role in international markets. Now, in Mexico, the federal government has established a comprehensive strategy for equitable and inclusive economic and sustainable economic development, with a national digital strategy that offers fiscal incentives, tax incentives, legal certainty, contributing to our national infrastructure plan, with hefty investments in the productive base as well as technology. These actions have led to, in 2025, in the third quarter, our having reached $41 billion of foreign direct investment, which is a record for us. That represents a 15% growth year on year, with new investments in energy, data centers, infrastructure, and the overall financial infrastructure. This strategy is placing Mexico as the second most important destination for data centers in Latin America, keeping in mind that data centers are the underpinning of digital financial services, the cloud, e-trade, and now artificial intelligence. The National 2025-2030 Development Plan seeks public innovation across the board and sets as a key objective to ramp up connectivity and competitiveness by simplifying through digitalization and reducing the time necessary to solve problems, seeking that by 2030, 100% of our population will have a national digital ID card, such that 100% of all business vis-a-vis the government can be taken care of or addressed in a single window. Now, in January, with the digital transformation and telecommunications project, this is an institutional guiding principle that guides the digital transformation for 2025 to 2030 for the Mexican government, again, driving certain sectors of the economy and trade in a comprehensive way. This digital transformation program, together with the legal framework established by law to regulate the financial interactions between MSMEs, along with our cybersecurity strategy, the national strategy for financial education, the national financial inclusion policy, and novel models such as regulatory sandboxes run by the National Banking and Securities Commission are mechanisms enabling businesses and entrepreneurs to test out technological projects at low risk, making it possible to lay the groundwork to consolidate a robust and modern infrastructure, offering greater legal certainty in financial transactions through digital platforms, paving the way for interoperability of payments, driving electronic business. Evermore, Mr. Chairman, electronic trade and electronic financial transactions require a sound underpinning, strengthening the rights of users, allowing for further expansion into new areas and the adoption of new trends of digital, strengthening the foundation of digital commerce. But for this to happen, there has to be a greater digital literacy to bring down the digital gap and to create a proper environment for such digital transformations, focusing on young people, women, and other vulnerable groups. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mexico, and I recognize the Ambassador of Uruguay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, congratulate you for your country's independence. And I thank the Executive Secretary of Integral Development and all the esteemed speakers. And we have a long tradition in e-trade, and we have the proliferation, because of that, of local international electronic or technological firms that work on developing products in our country, generating innovative solutions for the financial sector with high-skilled human resources in technology fields. I think we have a good example of this. A startup, small or micro enterprise that started in Uruguay. It is a unicorn that trades on Wall Street, and that has allowed for the development of financial resources precisely for payment in the exchange of financial products as well. Uruguay has paved the way for different types of business undertakings, seeking out innovative solutions in the financial realm, and our country has developed a state policy such as the development of broadband connectivity. We've reached 95% of the population being connected, also with 5G having been developed, and we stand out as regional hub for financial technologies. Furthermore, Uruguay has institutions that allow for innovation in this type of enterprise, for software production, contributing, being a enticement for development or a spur for development of such businesses in our country, allowing for business development. Now, in 2014, Uruguay set into motion as a state policy the financial inclusion program, seeking to ensure that all people, without any distinction, regardless of that person's economic status, would have access to formal financial services through modern digital means. And the country and the government, and generally speaking, the branches of the government, wrote out a plan making available different tools to ease access to digital technological tools. More than 4 million different digital instruments were created, and 1.3 million new debit cards were issued, contributing to a greater degree of banking of people, making it easier to make electronic payments. So that has played a key role in bringing down the use of payments in cash or via checks. Now, this exchange of experience, I think, has been very worthwhile, and it's an opportunity for us to offer our experience, given the fact that the most vulnerable people, those who receive cash transfers from the state, to have a digital debt card for that purpose and to make purchases and to receive their cash transfers and subsidies is very helpful, useful. Now we have a development bank that has 50% of the share in lending for consumers, and has a lending mechanism whereby companies can come into the formal sector, making available free of charge debit cards to companies that want to come into the formal fold. We also have a fintech chamber with more than 50 specialized companies for developing technological tools, open banking, crypto, blockchain, among others, and payment system. The chamber seeks to foster the building of a more inclusive and efficient infrastructure, setting forth a regulatory framework favoring innovation and the financing of the fintech sector in our country, offering services even internationally. Some success stories are being developed in the country. Bankly is a case in point, which allows for online banking and financial services. Bonanza, which is your Uruguayan company from Bancomer, which allows for financial transactions and to manage people's billing with different features available. Cybersecurity and fintech, and working for greater online or digital payments. The Undersecretary of Economy and Finance, Martin Valcorba, shows that our experience shows that financial inclusion does not only pave the way for safer and efficient financial transactions, it also allows for competition, bringing down cost, fostering innovation. As we look to the future, as the Undersecretary said, fintech is a priority within our economic agenda. We stand by to share our experience with any delegation that has questions for us. Thank you.
Ambassador of Canada.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et félicitations à l'occasion du 50e.
We congratulate you for the 50 years of Suriname's independence. Without a doubt, a important milestone. And we would like to stress the importance of the expansion of financial inclusion and building this infrastructure. My country leads the world. We're at the cutting edge of fintechs. Companies offer breakthroughs in technology, the use of AI, cybersecurity, blockchain, finding new solutions, personal finances, and the management of one's wealth. This all benefits growth and the creation of our Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, which are cities well known throughout the world. We're well positioned to serve the international market. And we received $2 billion of U.S. Dollars invested in 223 different fintech transactions with 209 foreign businesses setting up shop. It's so strong compared to 2024, and that shows how much trust investors have in this sector.
In the fintech sector, Canada's regulatory framework seeks to strike the right balance between encouraging innovation and ensuring stability. Building on this foundation, we are advancing legislation on open banking, which will permit secure third-party access to consumer data. This initiative is expected to stimulate innovation, expand consumer choice, and broaden economic opportunities across the fintech ecosystem. In parallel, Canada is modernizing its payment infrastructure through what we call real-time rail system, the real-time rail system. This platform will facilitate safe and instantaneous transactions, thereby strengthening the resilience and fostering innovation across borders. Together, these reforms demonstrate how regulatory clarity and infrastructure modernization can accelerate digital trade. At the same time, we recognize that leveraging e-commerce as a strategic sales channel is essential for small and medium-sized enterprises seeking to diversify trade and expand global market access. Online sales channels are rapidly evolving, and social commerce, omnichannel retail, and live streaming are reshaping global trade. Canadian SMEs are already diversifying exports in sectors such as agri-food, natural health products, apparel, and cosmetics, while Canadian consumers increasingly purchase through digital channels, driving competitiveness. Mr. Chair, Canada's approach also emphasizes inclusive trade, ensuring that the benefits of digital transformation are equitably distributed. This multifaceted strategy integrates social and economic considerations into trade policy, free trade agreements, and targeted support for underrepresented groups. Through targeted initiatives such as trade missions, accelerators, and networking events, Canada is helping women and youth-led businesses grow internationally. Canada further strengthens inclusivity by participating in initiatives such as the Global Trade and Gender Agreement, the Trade Inclusive Action Group, and the Indigenous Peoples Economic and Trade Cooperation Agreement, which enhance opportunities for underrepresented groups in the digital economy. In conclusion, we are ready to share our experience and export-ready solutions in digital payments and e-commerce while working with our regional partners to promote an inclusive, resilient, and harmonized fintech and trade ecosystem across the Americas. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador, and I give the floor now to the Ambassador of Panama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We take note of the contributions made by the panelists. To speak of electronic trade is to speak about the economic future of our countries. It's to recognize its potential to democratize access to markets and to close the gaps that remain in our region. To share Panama's national experience, and with your leave, Mr. Chairman, I would like to present Roberto Someta, who is a Panamanian professional specialized in transactions from the Office of Promotion of Trade Pro-Panama, which is under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, who will be speaking remotely from our capital. And I would thank the Secretariat to please allow him to take the floor. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Ms. Ambassador, rather, for giving me the floor, and I thank you, and good morning, Chairman and city authorities from the Executive Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the permanent mission at the OAS. I would like to start by expressing my thanks to the Chair for having convened this session focused on sharing progress and challenges about the role of technology and finance and e-trade in the development of our economies. For Panama, this is a topic that is a part of our overall national strategy that seeks to strengthen digital infrastructure, to create conditions for innovation, and to pave the way for the integration of bringing companies into our local, regional, and global economies. The quick pace of expansion of electronic business means that countries have to have clear regulatory frameworks, modern electronic infrastructure, interoperability, and institutional wherewithal, allowing us to process growing flows of information and payment and data. Within this context, Panama has been developing a technical platform to consolidate a sound and safe digital environment. As regards infrastructure, we have very good connectivity with 7 subaquatic cables connecting our continent, connected with 14 operational data centers. A host of them allow for redundancy and placement services. We continue to broaden and modernize our digital infrastructure through public sector and private sector investments with new projects to broaden our capacity and to make sure that we have ever greater resilience and continuity in our operations. Thanks to this ecosystem, more than 70% of the population has access to the internet, and mobile penetration is over 100%, allowing for swift adoption of digital services and financial services. This has favored the technical growth of the fintech ecosystem in our country. In 2024, for the first time, we created the Panamanian Fintech Chamber with more than 100 fintech companies up and running or under development. Are members of it for remittances, technologies for credit, digital insurance, business management, and ID verification. Institutionally speaking, Panama has been strengthening its cybersecurity and technological risk management, as well as promoting technical cooperation and dialogue with international partners to exchange best practices on financial innovation, to protect digital consumers and models of oversight. Currently, our country is taking a look at international experiences related to regulatory sandbox so that we can assess their possible adoption under a gradual and responsible approach. Now, in electronic trade, Panama is working on modernizing logistic and normative processes, allowing us to bring down operation costs and to enhance the efficiency in the movement of merchandise. The logistical platforms, including ports, airports, free economic zones, and customs zones, are a part of a strategy that seeks to allow for easier regional transportation of merchandise. Digital interoperability is key for modern economic development. Panama recognizes the importance of basing its interoperable system on digital payments, electronic certification, and logistic traceability. Currently, the country is working on technical initiatives that seek to enhance connectivity between public and private platforms, bolster digital identity, to stand up services and promote standards of safe exchanges. As far as HR, in 2020, we have created a training program to strengthen digital knowledge for services through the Ministry of Trade and Industry. More than 16,000 people have been trained in entrepreneurship in the electronic trade that seeks to enhance digital literacy, online platforms, and electronic payment services that are innovative, bringing in women and young entrepreneurs, as well as small and mid-sized companies, seeking to ensure that the technological transformation be inclusive and that the necessary technical skills be made available not only in the capital but throughout the country. Lastly, Panama recognizes that the technical challenges that we face as a region call for collaboration. The interoperability regulatory harmonization, protecting digital consumers, and making more available digital services are areas in which hemispheric cooperation can speed up development meaningfully. We have created, or we are willing rather, to share our experience and our progress and to take an active part in any regional initiative that seeks to create technical standards, innovation, and platforms that are integrated for e-trade and financial services. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Someta, for sharing this, and we'll take you up on the willingness to cooperate more. We now go to the Caribbean, and the representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has the floor.
Thank you, Chair. St. Vincent and the Grenadines welcomes this timely dialogue as the committee works collectively to shape a regional roadmap that enhances trade across the Americas. We commend the presenters for their invaluable insights. Chair, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated global digitization, driving innovation and resilience in sectors that had previously received limited attention. Today, fintech and e-commerce are key drivers of modernization and financial inclusion, creating new opportunities for small businesses and individuals. Digital financial services and e-commerce reduce transaction costs, speed cross-border payments, and enable MSMEs to access regional markets. These tools also support customs modernization and logistics integration, fostering a more efficient and transparent trading environment. For small island developing states like ours, digital platforms unlock opportunities in tourism microservices, agro-processing, fisheries, and diaspora-driven e-commerce. They help MSMEs overcome structural constraints such as size, distance, and high logistics costs, while connecting directly to regional and global markets. Expanding financial inclusion remains a priority. Digital tools enable unbanked and underbanked populations to access payments, savings, and remittances, while also facilitating government-to-person transfers through electronic systems that enhance transparency and resilience, as demonstrated during disaster recovery efforts following Hurricane Beryl, when cards linked to digital payment systems were used to deliver assistance. Chair, despite this momentum, challenges remain. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is accelerating e-government and e-procurement reforms to modernize public administration, reduce paperwork, and improve efficiency. Efforts are underway to integrate the single window, SWIFT, across all agencies and establish seamless connections with customs, ports, and major private sector systems, including freight forwarders, banks, and insurers. However, as digital trade expands, cybersecurity and consumer protection have become critical priorities. While legislative frameworks are in place, infrastructure and cybersecurity capabilities are still evolving and require sustained investment. My delegation commends the SETI for the OAS Development Cooperation Fund program, which supports member states in achieving national and regional development priorities. St. Vincent and the Grenadines benefited under the 2021 to 2024 cycle through the initiative Retooling MSMEs through Innovation and Technology. These efforts, combined with affordable internet, digital skills training, and incubators, provide vital support to women and youth-led businesses in the digital economy. Chair, digital tools, when strategically leveraged, can serve as powerful catalysts for transforming trade within and across our region. Together, let us commit to building a secure, inclusive, and innovative digital ecosystem, one that empowers MSMEs and drives sustainable growth throughout the Americas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and we now go to the representative of Chile. You have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Chair. Digital transformation continues to have a very great impact on the markets of our region, and financial sector is no exception. The Inter-American Development Bank says that between 17 and 23, the number of there was more than 340% increase, more than 3,000 persons that changed the way that payments are made. This is making a very big difference to the former barriers of micro and small enterprises. In the case of Chile, we've developed by leaps and bounds in this area. The consumer and the capacity for innovation have both been affected in terms of their financial capacity, respectively. Digital trade is certainly the object of all kinds of different markets, the CPPT and the various different agreements that have been written, like DEPA. There is the non-application of trade if the trade is conducted by that means, and there's also, of course, the recognition of digital signatures. But the overall transformation or the overhauling of the digital market, as has been said several times this morning, poses challenges. The informal sector and various other issues are particularly burdensome to the small and medium-sized enterprise, and that is why we had better set up a regulatory framework that is flexible but that is wise, so that we can increase cybersecurity. That's the name of the game. Now, Chair, given that picture, we think that through CD we have here a couple of very clear targets, and there are certain priorities that speak for themselves. First of all, we have to use the micro trades and the enterprises that are there, but we need also to see how we can avoid fragmentation of the market while strengthening the ones we've got. Secondly, there have to be regional cybersecurity standards that we all know and abide by. This will offer users greater safety. It's a win-win. We want also to increase digital security, especially with regard to young women. We've worked with a number of different programs with catchy names that speak to young women. We need also certainly to increase our cross-border security features and to increase the overall alliance for security for us all, particularly on increasing trade in the Americas as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Chile, and I give the floor now to the Ambassador of El Salvador.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Extensiva.
Thank you very much, Chair. We are very grateful to the panelists for the information that has been shared. We in El Salvador are marching resolutely forward toward an inclusive market and one that has strengthened its legal framework and better implementation. In El Salvador, we're working in the context of better institutionality together with government and academia and others in order to ensure that our development is sustainably marching forward and economically smart. We in the area through 2030, in that time span, are working very hard to improve digital transformation, digital governance, education transformation, and better familiarity with these affairs. And President Bukele is very much pushing the concept of a digital nation, by which we mean to change El Salvador, transform it, I should rather say, into a digital hub that will work for technology, for solution in the financial sectors, and a better area to attract investment. Part of our digital agenda seeks to increase production through academic, scientific, and technological research, as well as to identify indicators that will be more useful to us, pinpointing which areas are most productive and how we can better help internationally as well as nationally our own Salvadoran enterprises. Innovation, of course, is key. We need to have these small and medium-sized enterprises feel safe And that is why we understand that the international framework of laws like Bitcoin and others that facilitate financial transactions need to be better known and better managed. Fintech, electronic trade, and other means are key. Fintech in and of its own, of course, covers both public and private entities to push technological advances and a change of different trade laws where necessary. We launched our own framework in 2023, and between now and then, we have managed to shift our digital assets and increased our financial investment through the country. El Salvador has made great progress in terms of its digital assets. We have a wonderful market or a platform of exchange that is now of international interest. People that want to learn about a new digital technology, including the blockchain, is certainly something that we are involved with, particularly involving security, transparency, and being attractive to talent. We're talent scouts. And we want to be able to be known for a good regulatory framework, but that's up to date, where the financial and the technological find common ground. We've set up a national council on financial and national education. Our national bank has backed this. We have initiatives that have been launched to ensure that formal state-regulated framework is available and that our population is comfortable with it. It has been certainly key in developing our own policies. We have a system called Mi Viaje Financiero, my financial trip or voyage, and that is the sum and essence of the offers that we have through different immersive courses. El Salvador has been launching, as of 2021, I might add, a financial law to set up a good regulatory framework focused on trade and contract linked to technology. Our digital road that dates back to 2023, USAID and the Inter-American Development Bank have helped us do that, have helped us launch 43,000 small and medium-sized enterprises, particularly focused on women, and various different marketing tools that have increased a 34%, 35% increase over the last year. This is key for the Hemisphere Chair. We offer this as an example by which we at the OAS would do well to tell each other's stories, because our stories are not carbon copy one of the other, and we can learn from each other. We need to know about existing initiatives that may be of interest to our own, regionally, particularly in terms of educational financing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, and I give the floor to the representative of Peru.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. We can but echo the expression of congratulations to Suriname for its Day of Independence, and we're very pleased to be at this special session of CD because we too think it's so key to strengthen our regional measures in the Americas on financial technology and electronic marketing. These are habits that are spearheading productive sessions and thereby the entire development of the region. The specialists that have honored us with their presence here have said as much, and we couldn't agree more. Financial resources are now flowing more than they have before. The entry level is smoother before. There are ever younger people in rural areas that are participating in this manner. That doesn't mean that we've got it made. There are still gaps. There's much more attention needs to be paid to cybersecurity and various other elements that clamor for attention, and we would do well to give it. Let me give you a couple of examples. With regard to Peru, we think that would be pertinent for today. In Peru, digitalization has certainly been key as we have sought to improve the small and medium-sized enterprises. All the SMEs are now very much more operating between 23 and 24 on an interoperable market. There is a complete and clear system of digital payments, particularly to help small and medium-sized enterprises, and small enterprises, particularly in the rural sector, as has been mentioned this morning. We want to increase confidence in the digital market and the digitalization of customs measures that and rules that need to be abided by. All those mechanisms, as they have been better implemented, have made a big difference to the exporting SMEs and cross-border trade. It's a win-win. And therefore, we think it is clear that we would do well to continue along that road and better identify digital identifiers and how we can smooth out the better acceptance of digital marketing. Now, Peru recognizes that training here is key, particularly as it regards women who are involved in this. Programs such as Ruta Digital, the digital road, and efforts to increase financial literacy and a better understanding of the private sector have all proven their worth. And that is how we think that resilience and the better understanding among each other can grow. Peru certainly stands for all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Peru. And we go to the neighbor, Paraguay. At least neighbor here, not on the continent.
Muchas gracias, Presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Paraguay wishes to echo the congratulations that have been offered to Suriname on its Independence Day and festivities. We're very pleased to have this meeting of CD taking place because it's dealing with a matter, let's face it, that is ever more important to us all. Digital transformation in each of our countries in the micro and small enterprise sector. It goes to the importance of better commercial trade and financial education at its base. This certainly has been key to Paraguay. In 2024, CIPAC, our payment system, processed more than 68 million transactions. That was about 286% of the GDP. And that was rooted in the instant or immediate payment system that was in place. Electronic banking and interoperability among companies and service agencies that deal with payments have all proven their worth. This is how we have managed to reduce the use of hard cash, facilitate access to digital payments throughout the country. Paraguay has seen and feels very optimistic about it, how digital trade is increasing. Means of payment, a better integration of the internet, and a better understanding of AI is allowing the Paraguayan enterprises, the companies, particularly the small and medium-sized enterprises, to improve, to do better. And here we can only agree with the panelists who have said how important it is to keep that private-public dialogue rooted on a solid basis and understanding. And we certainly need clear regulations without the generation of unnecessary red tape and obstacles. We need, on the contrary, to make things more streamlined and to have a regulatory framework well based on our model law on society, which we have spoken about very much in this very hall. And that includes the ability to move forward even in this a very small period of time, including 48 hours. This means that more and more actors have room in that digital economy. The idea is to strengthen everybody's better understanding of the digital market, how to operate in it, and how to function within a more inclusive framework, of course, properly trained. Paraguay certainly recognizes the progress made in financial technology in the electronic sphere, but we do think that we would do well to focus on a couple of common threats. We better look at how important it is to improve our digital financial education, better access to credit, and a better support to be offered by our technological backstopping. This is where I think our common values lie. We need a safe use of the platforms. We need institutional frameworks that move and recognize the challenges that are before us. And that is something that affects us all and certainly affects our joint and several small and medium-sized enterprises. So we speak for trust in security, trust in a safe use of these initiatives, and everything we can do to improve our trade in the digital world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Ecuador is now recognized.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Chair, Executive Secretary, and distinguished panelists. This hemispheric dialogue is yet another opportunity for us to put our heads together in a realistic way to see what we can do to make our financial environments safer and easier to use, as everyone has said. This offers a greater opportunity to make sure that these matters become truly democratic and thereby improve all of our economies. The different steps that we have taken in the public-private sector has made a terrific difference. We have the FinTech law that most recently modernized the regulatory framework in the area of finances and has also allowed us to spot where we need innovation. We also have the Central Bank of Ecuador that has modernized the interbank payment system and has thereby facilitated the use of digital payments, and we saw that happen between 2019 and 2022. We also have a single system called OAS that has, for its part, again facilitated payment to small and medium-sized enterprises so that not only within the country, but where there is cross-border trade, they have become relevant. We want to be sure that the benefits of this digitalization, however, benefits more people. That we need to do. Now, the various success stories that we've heard here makes us very pleased. And inspired by these different stories, we want, together with SETI and the OAS, to work better in a joint environment where we may more easily share our knowledge and ensure that responsible payment systems are set up. We have a lot to learn from each other. Let's do it. Because, of course, things aren't a carbon copy from one country to the other. Sure, there are certain basic principles that apply, but we need to be able to spot where we need to finesse and tailor these different measures. In terms of trade frameworks and cross-border trade, we would suggest that there be a comparative framework of what we do in this organization, and that we should have such things as electronic trade documents and the production of data and cybersecurity. Let's have better information as to what we all do in that area. If we had a better diagnosis, or if you wish to see it differently, diagnostic tools whereby we can understand better how we can improve, I think it would be a win-win. And it would make the interoperability we keep mentioning easier to reach. The Fund for Cooperation at the OAS is a good way to proceed. We know that a number of us have a high level of digitalization, others not so much. Ecuador thinks that this kind of fund would help us all to balance our approach and our ability to participate in this matter. Now, one point that is absolutely key and that has been mentioned, particularly as we remember today the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, we need to remember women who can greatly benefit by the kind of technology and the explanation of technology that will allow them to better access their own safety and freedom in many cases, and not remain tied to a situation which is no longer safe. We've been able to offer a number of conditions that have been very useful to women entrepreneurs, and frankly also to focus on young people coming up. We want to work with SIM, the Inter-American Committee on Women, so that digital information, financial education, and regional systems of data exchange are better understood. The Secretariat has spoken about this, the Chair has spoken about this, but this is an area where, more perhaps than in any other, no one can be left behind. Let me simply wrap up. Add, on a different matter, how much we too congratulate the people of Suriname on the day of their independence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I recognize the representative of Brazil.
Obrigada, senhor presidente.
Thank you, Chairman. Brazil would like to express thanks for your having chosen this topic for today's meeting, and I congratulate the speakers for the presentation. We understand that strengthening digital ecosystems and innovative financial instruments is key for us to broaden the competitiveness of countries of the hemisphere, spurring greater inclusion, socioeconomic inclusion and productive growth. From our standpoint in Brazil, this initiative, or an initiative focused on financial innovation, needs to include an inclusive aspect to it. Training entrepreneurs in the digital world is also key. We do believe that only with the proper training will we be able to ensure that businesses and citizens, especially small businesses, will be able to fully avail themselves of the benefits brought by technological innovations. We have a number of initiatives in Brazil among which we have a program from the Central Bank of Brazil, understanding value to offer financial education in public schools, reaching already 99% of Brazilian schools, with helping more than 5 million students. I should also mention the agreement of technical cooperation between the Andean cooperation agreement and organizations in Brazil to bring in further indigenous communities into this world. Now, fintechs, and digital markets that offer agile, low-cost services and that are fully digital is something else we offer. This offers us to speed up different activities in different sectors, especially between MSMEs. Now, to make sure that we consolidate this progress, Brazil thinks it's very important for us to ensure that there be regulatory stability, also transparency in trade. These are essential elements for us to attract quality and long-term investments. Reforms geared toward simplifying foreign trade processes and digitalization, and also innovating competitive frameworks and to strengthen the protection of intellectual property are also important for us to spur technological transfer and further innovation. For Brazil, strengthening technological financial ecosystems and digital trade in the region require that we have a clear, predictable, and appropriate technological frameworks, making possible instant electronic payment, open finance, safe digital ID, and a cooperation on cyber safety and fighting the money laundering are all a part of this. Now, public-private partnerships are also necessary to foster financial inclusion and strengthen these innovations. Brazil gathered experience with instant payment systems such as our PIX system, which can be a frame of reference for the development of best practices here at the OAS. Furthermore, the single window foreign trade developed by Brazil with our single window, this has brought down costs and red tape for exports and imports, showing the transforming potential that digitalization holds. Lastly, Brazil thinks that it's essential that there be developed initiatives to support companies led by women and young people in the digital economy, and we would suggest to this effect that we do a survey of such initiatives throughout the region to facilitate the exchange of best practices. In our country, we seek to move forward with the project Women Entrepreneurs, financing studies and projects, and under the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, which offer the acceleration of companies and offering awards for the most innovative companies in the area of technological entrepreneurship. Brazil reasserts its commitment to digital transformation, making sure that it's sustainable, inclusive, and that seeks for comprehensive development of the region.
Thank you. And we go now to Costa Rica.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Costa Rica wishes to congratulate Suriname on its 50th anniversary of its independence, and we're also very much in favor of the technological development agendas that the panelists have shared with us today. Digital transformation depends a lot on our trade and the trade that we can carry out digitally. And this we have tried to advance through different standards, different frameworks, improving digital solutions that increase educational understanding by the small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs. As others have pointed out, initiatives such as the National Transformation on Digital Transformation and the processes to simplify these and the use of the electronic systems and cybersecurity systems are improving the access of our own enterprises to these markets and therefore to broader markets. We think it's important that public-private alliances continue to be strengthened. For this, also there to be training and online training sessions. Costa Rica very much echoes the priorities that the other other states have expressed not only today, but in previous meetings. We understand that there's principally a need to narrow the gaps that exist between people's understanding of these markets and how they can better market them. Certainly also with regard to identifying fraud and the pertinence of identifying different cooperation mechanisms throughout the system through a better understanding of best practices, knowledge and habits and contexts of law in different places. Not to forget artificial intelligence. We think we should do more to work together. First of all, we need to focus on markets like RIAC and COPANET in order to better share what works and practices in the different contexts that can be improved by digital information and the transfer of digital data. We need technological tools that will particularly be made available to young people and to women. Others have spoken on this. One example is Cometa, which has focused precisely on more young people, more females, including. Chair, before I close, let me simply say that at the end of the day, what matters is that these trade opportunities make a difference to our communities' lives. Costa Rica will continue to work with member states to that end. We hope that we can come up with measurable, concrete measures by which we can make a difference to their lives. The interpreter regrets the speaker has really spoken at the speed of light.
Thank you very much. And we go to the last but not least speaker of Guatemala.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Guatemala thank you for convening this session, and we also are grateful for all of the very worthwhile presentations made by the panelists. The digital global wave continues to deeply transform economic systems in our societies. Digital finance have shown to be some of the most meaningful transformations in the modern financial systems. The use of digital technology along with information and communication technologies are allowing us to innovate in productive and financial operation systems, payments, cryptocurrency, blockchain, the expansion overall of fintech business. The swift development of these mechanisms are redefining the offering of financial services and the global financial architecture, as the panelists said today, among which electronic payment means are a key innovation that calls for strengthening normative frameworks, ensuring the protection of consumers, businesses, and the overall system, for us to avoid illegal or fraudulent practices that could jeopardize this transformation. Financial services, digital services have proven to be effective means of financial inclusion, bringing down transaction costs and offering greater access to broader markets, especially for MSMEs, as well as for populations that are traditionally sidelined from the banking system. Emerging technologies such as blockchain have ushered in more effective, safe, and transparent means for managing financial transactions. Their use in payments, ID authentication, and change of supply offer new opportunities to strengthen trust and the integrity of financial systems. The rise of fintech businesses have completed the modernization of financial services, allowing for more personalized and flexible services, broadening the array of services available on the market. Mr. Chairman, progress of fintech has also transformed international trade payment systems and for sale of products. Now, traditional means can take days. Digital tools allow for immediate transactions, allowing for the circulation of capital and strengthening the liquidity of businesses, bringing down costs, enhancing efficiency, fostering greater participation in global trade. The synergy between electronic trade and digital finance has stepped up the globalization of international trade. Today, digital platforms allow companies, especially MSMEs, to trade throughout the world their products, tearing down barriers and enhancing their competitiveness. Electronic trade with digital financial services taken together create favorable conditions for an ecosystem that drives further and sustainable development in the region. We need to avail ourselves of these measures, but that calls for additional measures. We underscore the need to promote financial literacy and the development of digital know-how through training programs with specific focus on rural communities, women, young people, informal workers. We underscore also the importance of building modern and consistent frameworks with international standards to promote responsible innovation, to protect consumers, and to ensure the integrity of the financial system and of the trade. Both elements, that is digital literacy and education and normative strengthening, have held out much potential to enhance resiliency of our systems and to make sure that the benefits of digital transformation reach the whole population. Mr. Chairman, we reiterate Guatemala's willingness to continue collaborating here in this venue to move toward an inclusive, safe, and harmonized financial system, calling for the overall development of our nations. Last but not least, Guatemala also joins in congratulating the people and the government of Suriname for its Day of Independence. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no other requests for the floor, allow me to thank all delegations for your engagement in today's dialogue. I also thank the panelists who remained with us most of the time, and I hope that they also were able to pick up some things that will help them further. We have taken note of all the perspectives, and as you know, we are busy or trying to make a roadmap to improve trade in our hemisphere. I also want to thank all of you for the congratulations for 50 years of independence. I shouldn't be sitting here today. I should have a free day, but I didn't close my embassy because CD is important, and it's important to promote development within our countries. But don't worry, we take off Thursday and Friday. So thank all of you. So this concludes item 2, and we now go to item 3 on the order of business, which is the CD sectoral ministerial process cycle, sustainable development, the 7th regular meeting of the Inter-American Committee on Sustainable Development. And this morning we will receive the report of the 7th regular meeting. As delegations may recall, the meeting held on October 14 under the leadership of the Bahamas reviewed progress made in implementing the Inter-American Climate Change Action Plan 2023 to 2030 and reaffirmed the urgency of accelerating work on building resilience, water security, renewable energy transitions, and climate finance across the hemisphere. Member states highlighted increasingly severe climate impacts affecting lives, livelihoods, and infrastructure, particularly in small island developing states, and underscored the need for stronger cooperation, data-driven decision-making, and predictable financing. The committee also examined emerging risks, including water system vulnerabilities, energy system stability, and the need to strengthen institutional capacity and project pipeline readiness ahead of the 5th Sustainable Development Ministerial Meeting. In this regard, I'm very pleased to invite the Permanent Mission of the Bahamas to present the report of the meeting. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon all, and I join others as well in conveying congratulations to you and your country for your celebration of independence. Chair, on behalf of the Chair of the Inter-American Committee for Sustainable Development, the SIDS, the Honorable Michael Alcides, Minister of Economic Affairs of the Bahamas, the Mission of the Bahamas is pleased to present a summary report on the 7th regular meeting of the SIDS, convened on October 14th in hybrid format. The comprehensive final meeting report would have been circulated to OAS member states by the Secretariat on November 17th. The 7th regular SIDS meeting brought together representatives of 30 OAS member states to, firstly, evaluate progress on implementing the Inter-American Climate Change Action Plan 2023-2030, and secondly, shape the next phase of hemispheric action in preparation for the pending 5th meeting of ministers and high-level authorities on sustainable development. At the outset of the meeting, the Chair provided an update on the progress made on implementation of the Inter-American Climate Change Action Plan 2023-2030 since its adoption at the 4th Sustainable Development Ministerial, which was convened in the Bahamas in October 2023. We are pleased to advise that more than $40 million in new resources have been committed to OAS sustainable development programs since 2023. Key highlights of the update include reporting that, with respect to sustainable energy, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas, ECPA, has supported hemispheric progress in fostering regulatory frameworks and public-private collaboration in the energy sector, including through the successful convening of the ECPA Ministerial in the Dominican Republic in 2024, which gathered over 700 participants. Work also continues to build on and transition from ECPA toward a proposed new Energy and Security Partnership of the Americas, ESPA, to address the evolving energy landscape, including energy security, critical minerals, renewable energy, and resilience. With respect to oceans and the blue economy, the OAS is supporting member states in developing national sustainable ocean plans and has hosted regional knowledge-sharing events in Mexico and Antigua and Barbuda. Progress is also pending on a $14.2 million Sargassum program for Caribbean countries, and forthcoming work is also planned to combat plastics and microplastics in the region. With respect to climate resilience, disaster risk reduction, and climate finance, we have launched the Caribbean Collaboratory on Science and Data for Risk and Resilience. We've strengthened the Western Hemisphere Disaster Risk Management Network. We are working to launch the Climate Finance Hub, which is currently in its final developmental stages with support from CAF. We have launched a JEF-supported program for building capacity of national operational focal points. And we have also launched a circular economy project in the Peru-Colombia-Amazon border region. During member state dialogue on new dimensions that might be integrated into the Inter-American Sustainable Development Agenda, key member state proposals included the development of a rapid deployment technical assistance team to assist countries with disaster recovery and climate action project implementation, the development of a regular reporting mechanism on the state of sustainable development in the Americas, and adding a programmatic focus on the bioeconomy. During the meeting session on shaping hemispheric preparation for the next ministerial, meeting participants heard from experts on trends in sustainable development, including Mr. Juan Pablo Bonilla, manager for the climate change and sustainable development sector at the Inter-American Development Bank, who shared on the IDB Group's strategic direction regarding climate action and sustainable development to 2030. From Dr. Maria Donoso, UNESCO Chair on Sustainable Water Security at Florida International University, who discussed UNESCO's framework for sustainable water security, and Mr. David Earhart, Chief Executive Officer of Castalia, who shared emerging challenges related to energy security and system stability. During the session on partnerships, concrete offers to formalize and deepen partnership and coordination with the OAS on shared sustainable development priorities were expressed by Afri-Exim Bank, the CARICOM Development Fund, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, CAF, the Green Climate Fund, and the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF. In closing, Chair, the Bahamas wishes to underscore that the opportunity to chair and host the upcoming 5th meeting of ministers and high-level authorities on sustainable development, which is due next year in 2026, is available for any interested member state. We also want to encourage member states and observer states to consider partnering with the OAS and fellow member states to continue driving progress on sustainable development within the hemisphere through technical cooperation and donor support. Finally, on behalf of the SIDS and member states, we wish to convey our continued appreciation for our Vice Chair, Canada, and Executive Secretary Osborne, Director Lambrides, Committee Secretary Mayorga, and the SETI team for their invaluable expertise, ingenuity, and unwavering commitment to helping member states reach our shared goal of building a more sustainable and resilient Americas. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Bahamas, for this comprehensive report. And the Council takes note of the progress achieved, the recommendations put forward, and the priority areas identified by member states and regional partners. These insights will help guide the preparations for the next ministerial meeting on sustainable development. We now move to item 4 of our agenda, which is the report of the 22nd America's Competitiveness Exchange held in Cordoba, Argentina, from November the 2nd to the 7th. As delegations will recall, the government of Argentina extended a kind invitation to all member states to participate in the 22nd edition of the America's Competitiveness Exchange. To provide further details on the outcomes of this meeting and its relevance to CD's work, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Kim Osborne, our Executive Secretary for Integral Development, to take the floor. Ms. Osborne, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Chair. Distinguished ambassadors and permanent representatives, alternate representatives, OAS colleagues, good afternoon. It is with great pleasure and a deep sense of pride that I address you today to highlight one of the most impactful and respected mechanisms we have within the Inter-American system to advance competitiveness, innovation, and sustainable inclusive growth across our hemisphere. The America's Competitiveness Exchange, ACE. We believe that ACE directly fulfills the mandates you have entrusted to the Secretariat for Integral Development on competitiveness, innovation, and entrepreneurship. It is a program that reflects the essence of our shared mission at the OAS, to work together as a hemisphere to create opportunities for all our citizens. I would like to especially acknowledge the United States through its Department of State and the Economic Development Administration of the Department of Commerce for its long-standing support and partnership. Their collaboration has been central to making ACE the premier platform for economic development cooperation in the Americas. Distinguished member states, ACE transforms cooperation into concrete, measurable results. It brings together governments, the private sector, academia, innovators, and community leaders to catalyze new partnerships, strengthen innovation ecosystems, and expand opportunities for economic growth across our borders. Since 2014, ACE has held 22 editions in the United States, throughout the Americas, and in countries of permanent observers. Each edition provides a hands-on, high-level exploration of how economic development works at the local level, how effective public-private alliances are built, how institutions foster entrepreneurship, and how communities cultivate resilience and competitiveness. In the United States, ACE editions have been hosted in Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Washington State, Wisconsin, and Puerto Rico. Across the hemisphere, OAS member states, including Argentina, have hosted twice, Brazil, Mexico, Canada, Chile, Ecuador, and Panama have welcomed the ACE community. And among OAS permanent observers, Germany, Israel, and Armenia have also opened their doors to the program. We thank each member state who have contributed towards hosting the ACE, who have contributed financially, I should say, to hosting the ACE in your jurisdiction, and we look forward to your continued cooperation. I want to take a moment to express our deepest appreciation to the government of Cordoba, Argentina, Governor Martin Jagada, and Minister Acosta, for hosting the most recent and the permanent mission of Argentina, Ambassador Cheniak, who has also joined us at the ACE in Cordoba, for hosting the most recent edition of the ACE. Their leadership, hospitality, and commitment to showcasing local innovation made the edition an outstanding success, where an astounding 105 letters of intent were signed after 5 days of engagement. Each ACE delegation consists of approximately 50 high-level leaders selected through an open competitive process representing governments, businesses, and universities and innovation ecosystems from across the Americas and beyond. To date, participants from over 40 countries have taken part. The impact of ACE is profound. More than 1,200 corporation-ready projects have been featured. A network of 1,100 leaders continues to collaborate across borders. ACE has facilitated 180 signed agreements among public, private, and academic institutions. It has generated over 700 partnerships, including joint ventures, investment deals, research collaboration, and institutional exchanges. More than 30 economic sectors, from advanced manufacturing to biotechnology, agri-innovation, digital industries, renewable energy, and logistics have benefited. And according to an independent evaluation conducted this year, for every $1 invested in the ACE program, up to $30 in economic growth for the region has resulted. Moreover, recent hosts would have needed to invest $660,000 to obtain the same level of international reach and exposure without the ACE. Few programs offer such high returns on such tangible contribution to regional development. Distinguished member states, the Americas face a moment of profound challenge and profound opportunity. Technological change is accelerating, the global economy is shifting, competitiveness is no longer optional, it is essential. And in this context, no country can thrive in isolation. ACE is a vehicle for us to innovate together, compete together, and grow together. ACE helps us to do exactly that in strengthening economic resilience, especially for small and medium enterprises, innovation ecosystems by connecting researchers, entrepreneurs, and industries, investment flows by creating trust, reducing transaction costs, and opening markets, and essentially poverty eradication by supporting models of development that generate jobs and lift communities out of poverty. This is not abstract cooperation. It is cooperation that improves lives, empowers communities, and drives shared prosperity across the Americas. I encourage member states with vibrant innovation ecosystems to consider bidding to host a future edition of the ACE. Hosting an ACE is an unparalleled opportunity to showcase your country's innovation ecosystems, attract investment, position priority industry clusters on the global stage, strengthen local institutions, and build long-term partnerships with leaders from across our hemisphere and beyond. The doors of SETI are fully open to support any member state interested in exploring or preparing to bid. We stand ready to accompany you throughout this process. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for your engagement, your commitment to advancing integral development within the context of the OAS. We look forward to working with all member states to ensure that ACE continues to grow, evolve, and serve the people of the Americas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Osborne. And I think that this is exactly why CD is important, and why CD is important, because this is really a beautiful program, very tangible example of cooperation and action, and what can be achieved when we work together. So if you have never heard about ACE, at least today you have, and I hope that your countries are more interested in participating. It is now my honor to invite Mr. Guillermo Constancio Acosta, Minister of Economy and Public Management of the province of Córdoba in Argentina, to join us virtually to present the official report of this highly successful edition of the America's Competitiveness Exchange. Minister Acosta, you have the floor.
Good morning to all the participants. It's an honor to address you at this session of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development. First, I would like to express my thanks for having been invited to present the results of the 22nd Exchange of Competitiveness in the Americas, held recently in the province of Córdoba, Argentina. Allow me to recognize at this time the chair of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Suriname at the OAS, and the Executive Secretary for Integral Development, Kim Osborne, and her team for her leadership and commitment to hemispheric cooperation. I also like to greet the permanent representatives of OAS member states and the permanent representative, especially of Argentina at the OAS, along with the team of the Argentinian mission for their support to carry out this initiative. High authorities and decision makers of all of the continent of the Americas were convened in Córdoba to craft an approach for innovation. The agenda included world-class initiatives and global businesses in agribusiness, farm technology, life sciences, technologies of biotechnology and health, digital transformation, the automobile industry, and other key sectors. This effort was made possible by way of a collaboration between the OAS and Córdoba with the support of the United States through the U.S. State Department and the Department of Commerce of the U.S. Now, if you would allow me, I would like to summarize the main results and what we learned at this meeting. Here we have an illustrative map of the different editions of this program ACE. As the Executive Secretary Osborne just said, you can see the broad coverage of these actions throughout the continent. In the case of Córdoba, this was the second time that we hosted an exchange of competitiveness for the Americas. In the next slide, ACE Córdoba, we faced in the province of 76,000 square kilometers, we faced a challenge. The sound is breaking up, says interpreter. Now, the next slide provides information about the different organizers, as mentioned by Secretary Osborne, the government of the province of Córdoba, the OAS, the U.S. government, through its Departments of State and Commerce, the sponsors, the governor of the province of Córdoba, who is committed to this initiative. And he was very honored that Córdoba had been chosen to host this exchange and made sure that many partners, not just from the provincial government, but from local governments, be present. That is, the cities that we visited throughout the territory. Now we're going to see some concrete names, 47 delegates, representatives of 15 countries, 14 OAS member states, permanent members, and one permanent observer, and 30 different places or sites were visited where we showcased some of the practices of trade, investment, and innovation. Here you can see some of the companies that welcomed us, that were there, agribusiness and agri-tech businesses from Argentina, Cordoba, global companies such as AGD, Arcor, and other smaller businesses, but presenting a interesting mix of bioinnovation, Promadon, Akron, those tied to life sciences from the National University of Rio Cuarto, the automotive sector, Stellantis, a world-renowned company, Akron again, digital transformation, a digital transformation company from the Industrial, Technological, and Logistics Park of San Francisco, companies from the startup and innovation ecosystem tied to the sports economy, international companies such as NX, Globant, universities of Cordoba, now, if you look at everything that the OAS team has done, showcasing what has been done, what is being done with these public tenders that happened, 529 different business connections and opportunities were reported, many of which with sectors across the province of Cordoba, as you can see on this slide. Many of these connections emerge within the very team of delegates that made up this exchange experience. Here, we can see examples of these connections in many cases. We were able to document through a letter of intent signed by 45 members of the delegation signed, 60 such letters of intent signed on to from the academic ecosystem of Cordoba. 105 different agreements overall were signed, letters of intent, having to do with trade, innovation, the productive development, research, development and innovation, art, ag tech, biotech. On the right-hand side, you can see the countries that signed on to agreements with or letters of intent with organizations in Cordoba. So this isn't just a program for the exchange of experiences, to conduct these high value added visits, but often these visits and exchanges translate into concrete letters of intent and other agreements being signed on to. Some statistical matters can be seen on this slide. Taking the words of the governor, who spoke of the fact that Cordoba had been chosen for this ACE meeting to again showcase what is being done there. And on this slide, you see how important it is to be a part of this. In red, you see a prior consultation that the visitors engaged in which they talked about the importance of this exchange. In light blue, this was a survey of the opinion and the thoughts of people after having taken part in this exchange and in these visits. You can see a large number of people closely tied throughout the continent to these different sectors who came together in this exchange. Now, this is something we're very happy to share with you. 65% of those who were consulted said that their expectations were surpassed. 30%, again, that is 65% had their expectations surpassed by far. 31% had their expectations surpassed somewhat. Here you can see on this slide some witness testimonies of members of the delegation who took part, stressing the importance of what they encountered in Cordoba. And on this slide, you can start to see the impact or how the media coverage of this was. The written press, print press coverage was broad.
And in terms of the social media, you will see this very clearly. More than 30,000 hits through LinkedIn, and the same is something that you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, here with regard to Instagram. Take a look. We're talking about more than 85,000 accounts were reached. You tell me. For an activity of this kind of characteristic that has a very great deal to do with business and the exchange of information and activities, you get the picture. But in the few minutes that are left, ladies and gentlemen, let me simply say that we are deeply grateful and thank you to all those who are in Cordoba for allowing us to share what's happening, what the news is from our province, from our neck of the woods, and particularly as I speak to other regional governments, which we very much want to do, and in the case of the province of Cordoba, we're most excited so to do, because we want to be able to share what we have to give you and what we can continue to learn from you, and so that we can all together continue here. But we want to congratulate the OAS for having taken this up for the last 3 years. And over the last 3 years, I hope it's not the last, I hope it'll go on. But for now, thank you, over and out. But let us show you a little video before we go.
In November 2025, the 22nd America's Competitiveness Exchange brought together 47 leaders from across the Americas and beyond for an unforgettable journey through Cordoba, one of Argentina's most vibrant centers of innovation, industry, and collaboration. ACE Cordoba provided a unique platform to build strategic connections in trade, investment, and innovation across some of the region's most dynamic sectors: agribusiness and ag tech, life sciences, digital transformation, the automotive and auto parts industry, and startup and innovation ecosystem. Throughout the week, delegates explored the economic heartbeat of the province, traveling across 7 cities. Each site visit offered a powerful demonstration of how public-private partnerships fuel regional growth and open pathways for global collaboration. We extend our deepest appreciation to the host institutions who opened their doors and committed to forging new partnerships through ACE. The outcomes of ACE Cordoba speak for themselves. A remarkable 105 letters of intent were signed between business leaders, startups, government authorities, and academic institutions, demonstrating the strength of the ACE network to accelerate meaningful partnerships and business opportunities across borders. These agreements will drive collaboration in trade, innovation and productive development, research and technology transfer, ICT and digital transformation, ag tech and biotech, entrepreneurship and enterprise development, among many other areas. Together, we continue to advance competitiveness, innovation, and shared prosperity throughout our hemisphere. Thank you for being part of ACE Cordoba and for strengthening the transformative network that continues to move the Americas forward.
Thank you very much, Minister Acosta, for your presentation and for the fact that Cordoba was willing to host this successful edition of the America's Competitiveness Exchange. Thank you for all the data also, which made it very clear to everyone what the impact was for the industries there and for the program in general. I don't know if the ambassador of Argentina wants to say something.
Es muy tarde.
Well, I recognize, Chair, how late it is, so I will be as very brief as possible, and simply to echo what my very dear friend of the Minister of Economy of the province of Cordoba, my friend Acosta, say three things briefly. First of all, thank you, Chair. It's the first time I've spoken, although I already congratulated you for your National Day, but let me now congratulate you for where you're sitting and your excellent chairmanship of our meeting. We are a dear friend. Consider your country to be a dear friend of ours. Next, we have very often talked about the relevance and the pertinence of the OAS. And you know what? Sometimes the pertinence of the OAS doesn't necessarily filter through only in policy or debates. It very often is more palpable where we're talking about the integral development of what we do in these hallowed halls. And the ACE program, quite frankly, is really, we can say, something that's hit the ball out of the ballpark. It's just fabulous. And what we see in the province of Cordoba, a subnational area, and something that has been here acclaimed by so many people in the hemisphere who came to us, is something that fills us with satisfaction and with warmth. And I keep getting messages that say, don't stop here. We want to keep building this kind of network. It's terrific. Let's not stop. So I can hardly choose examples, but there was an expert from Mexico, an expert on clusters, who was talking passionately with some specialist of clusters to us. It isn't that Cordoba needed to learn from Mexico, but it's something that Cordoba was learning from every one of the actors. The academic section, the case of our ambassador of Uruguay mentioned, and Humberto Polans, the case that was also mentioned with regard to Ecuador, with regard to one of the most important enterprises companies in the world from this technological standpoint. You get the picture. I mean, we were really at it, man. We were very much into each other and learning from the province of Cordoba and recognized how much we all have to learn from each other. But we're talking about, dear friends, measurable, tangible things. This isn't blah, blah. This isn't just wonderful theories. What were the fundamental values that were learned in that trip? Let me just say real quick. First of all, synergy, public and private. Why? What do I mean by that? Look, at every country sitting here is absolutely master and mistress of what's done in his and her own country. What's been done, what's been out, but the synergy among the public and the private sector, wherever we may be, is key. Next, the role of the public sector hand in hand with the private sector. This is a hand-in-hand thing. And the more difficulty any development countries are feeling, and we all do, the more important it is to be innovative. This is not an easy challenge to pick up, let's face it. you can talk about it, but it's hard to do it. But that's why we learn from each other. We need to cooperate. We need to learn from each other's practices, best practices indeed. Networks. Everybody knows what a network is. And a network isn't a network if it isn't connected to everybody else. And I think we've all learned an awful lot from the province of Córdoba, all of us. So let me simply close by thanking Kim Osborne very, very much here. And Oswald and the other members of the team that have worked out there, and not to mention my good friends, the Minister of the Economy in Córdoba, Guillermo Tosa, and others, and the Executive Director of the OAS, who was present with us out there in the field. And being there is probably it, you know. The United States was immensely supportive. I can't begin to tell you how many people made a difference, and we couldn't have done it without them. The list is too long for me to begin to remember, never mind mention. So thank you, Guillermo Acosta, and we'll see you soon. Big hug. That's where I'd ended.
Thank you, Ambassador, and I give the floor to the United States.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Minister Acosta for your presentation on the most recent ACE in Córdoba, Argentina. This report highlights the success of this edition of ACE and the tangible results that the program delivers for our region. The 105 letters of intent signed by participants in the closing ceremony is a new record for this program. It's also a result of the government of Córdoba's dedication and commitment to curating an impactful agenda that not only highlighted the strengths of Argentina's agribusiness, automotive, connectivity, and digital transformation, as well as startup and innovation ecosystem sectors, but also the impact of bringing together influential leaders from the public, private sector, and academia who embody the creativity, energy, and risk-taking spirit necessary to drive innovation forward. Every ACE edition has been a tool for advancing economic development for our hemisphere. The startups, universities, small businesses, and municipalities that participate benefit directly from the outcomes of the exchange. The United States believes in the importance of a shared commitment to innovation and competitiveness. My delegation appreciates Córdoba's hospitality and commitment towards the ACE program and its participants. This exchange was a unique opportunity that showcased some of the region's growing and dynamic economic sectors, and we look forward to witnessing how past and future ACEs continue to build partnerships and collaborations that will help our region succeed. So thank you.
Thank you, and once again, Minister, thank you for your presentation. I recognize now Mexico.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mexico also wishes to very warmly congratulate everyone who had anything to do with the organizing of such an important event. Our colleague from Argentina has quite properly said this is also an important part of what we do at this organization. And certainly Mexico felt very fully and very enthusiastically representative, and I think it's a very positive thing to hail. And most especially, let me take the opportunity to applaud Secretary Kim Osborne. It was her triumph, her team's triumph, to be able to carry out concrete measures that have made the difference. Thank you, Secretary, for your wonderful example of ongoing efficiency and commitment to the work of this organization. And Chair, if I may, allow me, by the same token, to refer to item 3, and if you would allow us to speak already to Kim Osborne, you can tell us whether it's yes or no.
Of course.
Well, thank you. I'll take it. Thank you then, Chair. This delegation takes warm note of the report that has been presented by the Bahamas, and in that very context wishes to refer to the commitments that have been covered by the Inter-American Convention on Climate Change for 2023-2030. Speaking of the 100% Ocean Alliance and the high-level meeting for an oceanic alliance that will be sustainable for the organization of social and economic plans that are in themselves sustainable. The government of Mexico, Chair, just these last few days, sent an invitation to the permanent representatives of the OAS to come to us to learn about 100% sustainable ocean and sustainable action at the regional level, post 1, 2, 3, which will be held the 23rd to the 16th to 23rd of November in Mexico City. This will be a wonderful opportunity for us all to meet, along with the Development Bank, civil society, of course, the civil and federal representatives, an overall vibrant representation of Latin America and the Caribbean to cover the question of sustainable development plans, which, as we all know, is going to make a big difference if we really mean it when we say we want to protect the ocean and the ocean environment and everyone and everything that lives in it. Not only the marine environment, but our own natural environment, and people as well as animals and the flora and the fauna. The commitment of this region is, I think, key for us to build on that regional dialogue that has made such a difference in strengthening our collective work on behalf of a sustainable and healthy ocean. Thank you.
Thank you. And with this, we have moved to item 5, other business. Is there any other business? If not, then we will conclude this meeting and allow me to express sincere appreciation for all of your engagement. And let me point also out that there is an art exhibition in the Marcus Garvey Hall right here, which has to do with our 50th anniversary of independence. It is from an artist which is largely unknown, but while he was in prison during the Second World War, he produced 225 artworks, one every week. So it is a very good example that even if situations are not good, we still can be very creative and productive. Thank all of you, and we were very productive today as well.